As the sun sinks behind the hills of Jerusalem on Thursday evening, the city holds its breath. Narrow streets fill with pilgrims who have come from across Judea and beyond to celebrate Passover. Roman soldiers line the roads, their armor catching the last light of day. Tension hangs in the air. Within less than 24 hours, Jesus of Nazareth, teacher, healer, and religious revolutionary, will be arrested, interrogated, condemned, and publicly executed. This is not legend or symbolism. This is the final day of Jesus Christ, mapped not by theology, but by time. As night falls, Jesus gathers his 12 disciples in an upper room. Passover commemorates Israel's deliverance from slavery in Egypt, a celebration of freedom under God. Under Roman occupation, this meaning is dangerously political. Jesus knows his time is short. During the meal, he speaks openly of betrayal. One of those at the table, he says, will hand him over. Confusion spreads among the disciples. Then Jesus takes bread, breaks it, and gives it to them, telling them it represents his body. He shares a cup of wine and calls it his blood, poured out for many. They do not fully understand what he means, but the tone is unmistakable. This is a farewell. When the meal ends, Jesus leads them out of the city, crossing the Kidron Valley toward the Mount of Olives. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus withdraws to pray. The disciples remain nearby, but exhaustion overtakes them. According to the Gospels, Jesus experiences deep anguish, so intense it is described as physical distress. He prays for deliverance, yet submits to what lies ahead. Before midnight, the quiet of the garden is broken by movement and light. Torches approach. Judas Iscariot arrives, leading temple guards. He identifies Jesus with a kiss, a sign of familiarity turned into betrayal. There is no resistance. Jesus is arrested quietly, deliberately away from the public eye. Under Jewish law, arrests and capital proceedings were not supposed to occur at night, but legality is no longer the priority. Jesus is taken first to Annas, a former high priest who still controls much of Jerusalem's religious power. This is not an official trial. It is a probing interrogation meant to find grounds for condemnation. Annas questions Jesus about his teachings and his followers. Jesus refuses to cooperate, reminding them that he taught openly in synagogues and the temple. At one point, a guard strikes him for speaking back, an illegal act against an unconvicted man. No charges stick. Annas has nothing concrete. Jesus is sent to the sitting high priest. Jesus now stands before Caiaphas and members of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish ruling council. Witnesses are brought in, but their testimonies contradict one another. By their own legal standards, the case should end here. Instead, Caiaphas bypasses procedure. He asks Jesus directly if he is the Messiah, the Son of God. Jesus answers affirmatively and invokes imagery from the book of Daniel, placing himself in divine authority. The response is explosive. Caiaphas tears his robes, signaling blasphemy. The council declares Jesus worthy of death, but they cannot carry out the sentence. Only Rome has that power. At dawn, the council reconvenes briefly. This meeting likely exists to give legal cover to what was decided overnight. The verdict is reaffirmed. Jesus is bound. As the city begins to wake, he is led to the Roman governor. Jesus is brought to Pontius Pilate, the Roman prefect of Judea. The accusation has changed. No longer blasphemy, it is now treason. They claim Jesus has declared himself King of the Jews. Pilate questions Jesus privately. "Are you the King of the Jews?" Jesus answers carefully. His kingdom, he explains, is not of this world. Pilate hears no call to rebellion, no threat to Rome. He emerges and declares publicly, "I find no guilt in this man." But the crowd is growing restless. Learning that Jesus is from Galilee, Pilate sends him to Herod Antipas, the ruler of that region, who is in Jerusalem for the feast. Herod has long wanted to see Jesus. He hopes for a miracle, a sign, some spectacle. Jesus says nothing. With no charges and no evidence, Herod mocks him. Soldiers dress him in a royal robe as a joke and send him back to Pilate. Herod does not condemn him. Pilate makes several attempts to avoid execution. He proposes a Passover pardon, offering the crowd a choice between Jesus and Barabbas, a known violent rebel. The crowd chooses Barabbas. Religious leaders issue their final threat: "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar." Pilate understands the implication. A single accusation of protecting a rival king could end his career or worse. He washes his hands in a symbolic gesture and sentences Jesus to death. Jesus is scourged, mocked, and led through the streets to Golgotha. At approximately 9 a.m., he is nailed to the cross. Above his head is the charge, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Rome executes him not for what he taught, but for what he represented. At noon, darkness falls across the land. For 3 hours, Jesus hangs on the cross, speaking words of forgiveness, abandonment, and completion. Jesus cries out and dies. The earth shakes. The temple veil is torn in two. A Roman centurion, hardened by executions, looks up and says, "Surely this man was the Son of God." With the Sabbath approaching, Jesus' body is taken down quickly. Joseph of Arimathea places him in a tomb. A stone is rolled into place. As the sun sets, the Sabbath begins. In less than 24 hours, Jesus has gone from teacher to executed criminal. History, however, will remember him differently.